Hello, my name is Kristiyan Velkov, and I'm excited to talk with you today about Docker MCP, packaging deploying AI tools. Now, if you are not yet familiar with MCP or Model Context Protocol, don't worry, we'll cover it in just a moment. I'll break down every concept related to Docker and MCP in a simple and easy to understand way. So by the end, you'll feel confident working with Docker and MCP tools. But before we dive into the details, let me start with a quick introduction about myself. I'm a Kristiyan Velkov, front-end developer with 10 plus years of experience. My passion is front-end and Docker. Also, I'm a front-end advocate. I'm a tech blogger and author, also Docker Captain, title given by experts in the field. Also, I'm a speaker. I speak in many conferences about Docker and frontend, something which I'm really passionate and write a lot of blog posts for it. Here are the platforms where you can find my blog posts. I have a lot of blog posts, more than 200 in Medium. Also, I share my content usually in LinkedIn, and I have a newsletter in Frontend World, which is the place where you can learn front-end topics to be up to the age of the new technologies and also to understand Docker in better point. So, also, I'm author of the books. As you can see, I wrote 2 books, React.js Interviews, which is designed for people who are struggling to prepare for interview. I did more than 350 interviews, and I grouped this experience, also common questions, and explain them in very easy way so everyone can be prepared for React interview. Also, I love to dig deep. So for that reason, I decided to create a book about core utility types in TypeScript, something which is only 1 page in documentation. I did it in 600 pages. I give you promo code about my books. So if you go to my website, kristiyanvelkov.com, and type promo 20, you will receive 20% discount. Okay, enough introduction. Let's talk with something which is really important today. What is Docker? Docker is open source technology. Docker is a way, most people know that, you can create application, use Docker, create an image, create a container over this image, and everywhere will work the same. But nowadays, Docker is not just that. Docker is not only a tool for you to package applications, but also packaging MCP tools and also running AI models locally. I'll show that in the example later on. Okay, what is MCP? MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Shortly, it's a way how AI tools communicate between each other and understand each other. You can think of concept of USB port C. If you have a USB type C port, for example, you can use it in several devices, several tools, and later on, all of them can be connected to something which is the MCP client. Okay, here it's more details about MCP. As I said, it's open source protocol created by Anthropic, company behind the quote, and also it's really nice way to think about how something which is open source can change the whole area of the AI today. Okay. We already said that it's like concept of USB Type-C port, but also it's something which we can connect to the past. For example, MCP is like HTTP or HTTPS protocol. They stand for something, right? They stand for how we share information. And here is the MCP, but how we share information for AIs.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, there's some great talks here, but what I'm really looking forward to, and I've been to a couple of these GitNation shows, panel talks, when you're with a whole bunch of other people, you're getting these great conversations going on. That's really fun.
Shortly, how the MCP work? Usually, we have a client. Think of client like something you can write prompts or interact with it. For example, we can use Cursor, we can use Code, we can use Quine, and many different tools. We write something to the client, and connecting the client between the server and client with MCP, we can easily communicate with it. Also, this way is very intuitive because you can connect several tools. Not only one, but you can do a lot of tools and to interact in one place, in the client. I will give you examples on that later on. So, Docker introduced something which is very powerful. Docker MCP Toolkit. It's a gateway that lets you set up, manage, and run MCP servers and connect them to AI agents. So now think of Docker not just like you have images, like Node.js image, Python image, but also you have a MCP catalog. So MCP catalog, it's a way where you can find how MCP tools integrate in Docker, and just in seconds you have MCP connection. I will show that. It's very easy. And now it's time for our code demo. To be able to work with Docker, you should install it. The easiest part and the easiest way to install Docker is in going to Docker docs, click on Docker desktop, install for Mac, for example, click install and follow the steps. It's very easy. I already did that, so for that reason, I will not follow these steps. But if you don't already install Docker in your machine, if you use Docker desktop, it's the best easy way. Okay, since we are in Docker, what do we have here? First of all, you will see that we have a models and we have MCP Toolkit. If you don't see MCP Toolkit, what you should do is basically go to the settings, go to beta features and enable Docker MCP Toolkit. After enable it, restart Docker and you will see MCP Toolkit and MCP Toolkit and also catalog here. Okay, let's see what we have here. First of all, we have a models. Yeah, you can install AI models in Docker directly. For example, you can download Llama or Gemma or any available AI model in Docker. But let's take a look more in MCP Toolkit. Okay, MCP Toolkit is basically a way how I connect MCP tool with my client. So let's go in catalog. In catalog, you can see that Docker already added more than 200 tools. So for example, if you want to interact with Swag MCP tool, you can do it by clicking here and just add MCP server. That is. It's so easy. Okay, let's search for something. For example, Docker Hub. I already added Docker Hub, but if you don't, what you should do, it's very easy. Just click Docker Hub, add your credentials for Docker. I'll do the steps with you. So click again, Docker Hub, and that is, it's already added. But, wait. So we already added the Docker MCP server, but how to connect to the client? Docker did that very easy. So as you can see here, after we decide what catalog we want, they will be listed here. For some of them, we will need to provide the credentials. The beautiful part about Docker here is that the credentials are not in the code, are not in some files, but directly live in Docker, so they are secured. Okay, so what I had already is 3 servers. I have a Docker Hub, and Swag. For Swag, of course, if I want to use it, I need to add my configurations like secrets. You can follow the documentation and add them, but for now, I will not do that. Rather than, I will try to add the Docker. So let's remove Docker for a while, just for demo purposes to show you how we can do that. Okay, now I don't have any MCP server yet. So I click on MCP server, I type Docker, I just click plus button, that is, the server is already added. Now, let's see how I can connect this server to my client. As I can say many times, the client is just a tool which you can interact with and communicate with the server. So in my case, I will use cursor. If you are already connected, you will see that red button, but if you are not, just click connect. Now we are connected. The next step is to go to cursor. So here we are. We are in cursor. Now, what you can see is that this is my demo application which I created for you. This demo application, what is doing is basically prompts. If you type what is MCP, this will give you the output what is MCP, or type what is Docker, will give you information. We'll see the examples how it's using in seconds, but now the most important part is how to connect MCP server to MCP client. In our case, we are in code or cursor. In cursor, you can do tools MCP, and if you are not added yet, you will see that we have these tools. I already had them, but in case you didn't, what you should click is basically cursor settings, new MCP server. In MCP server, we have MCP JSON, and add your MCP servers. As you remember, we added Docker, right? So if I go to Docker, my servers, I have Docker here. Perfect. But why I don't see it in the MCP? Because often you should restart the cursor or the client you have. Okay, I will do that right now. Perfect. I restart the cursor, and now you see that I have MCP Docker added in the configuration of MCP JSON. So perfect. Good. We added it. Now, let's activate the tool. Okay, MCP Docker is already activated by us. If it's not, come here to Tools and MCP and just double check it's activated or not. And after you added this, the beautiful part is that we have a Docker here. See? And this command, I can use it to do a lot of things. For example, Docker help. See? Docker help give me all of the commands which I can run with Docker. Beautiful. Let's add another MCP server. Going back to Docker, add MCP server. Okay, I want the time. Add MCP server. My MCP servers, and we see that we have time. So, using MCP server, if I copy this code and paste it directly in cursor, will work also. So, going here, new MCP server, add the new MCP server, fix the mistakes, done. Basically like that. Perfect. Now we added the time. Okay, let's take a look what the time can do. Of course, we should restart again the cursor. Yes. Okay, perfect. Now, as you can see that in Docker, we have convert time. And basically, let's see what we can do. Perfect. See? So convert time is basically server which is used to convert the time. Shortly, it's that. It's not doing a lot, but as you can see in Docker desktop and the catalog itself, we have many different servers, which I can install and do a lot of beauty things like scrapping the information, using Grafana or using Playwright, a lot of things. Also, the beautiful part is that you are not limited to these sets of tools and servers here. What you can do is create your own MCP. And that is exactly what I have here. Okay. I named this repository AI code submit MCP Docker and will be available in my GitHub account. You can go download it and start basically running the commands. You can find the repository here. So Kristiyan Velkov, AI code submit MCP Docker. And I added very beautiful documentation on each step which I follow. In that way, you'll see that running the MCP is not so hard. Okay, that being said, going back to the application. I will show you an example what this application is doing, and later on I will show you how to create MCP. Okay. I type info MCP server, what is MCP, and is asking me for permissions. After receiving the permissions, you can see that it's typed the response, what exactly is MCP. I did this MCP server just to demonstrate how easy it is to create MCP, but also if you forget what is MCP or who I am, you can type a command and will appear, for example, my name. Like this. Running the command. Perfect. We see output. Nice. Kristiyan Velkov from the developer experience, where you can find me, where you can connect me, where you can ask questions. So this is beautiful. And this is the result. I just create this simple MCP server in seconds with help with AI and also with knowledge how to configure the MCP servers. And to be honest, it's not so hard. Let's see what we have. Okay, first of all, you have a server. Usually, when I start creating servers, I use Model Context Protocol SDK open source project, and you can just download it and create the servers with them easily. It's open source, so just go and try it. Okay, after I create a server, I set the information about the server and also the prompts which you can ask. As you can see, I had several prompts, and based on each prompt, you receive some response here. I will not go deep how I did exactly the setup and the prompting, because you have the option to go to GitHub and look everything. But the most important part here is that in each step you have guide, and also I added a cursor MCP config for you. I added Docker guide and Docker compose, Docker files, and etc. So usually when you create a server, you can run this server locally. It's not a problem to run it locally. And you can connect this local server to cursor, for example, as I did here. See, this is server local. But imagine I want to share this server to someone else. The problem with sharing any information about MCP often is security, because you should share also how you did the authentication, authorization, etc. But also I have a package JSON file which specify different dependencies, specific Node.js version, for example, or different npx tool. So here is the beauty of Docker. Docker allow me to create a image for this specific server, and later on to paste it in some repository like my private Docker Hub repo or anywhere else, and share it with the people without worrying that npm will not work, or the packages are different, or the security issues. Everything will work if you do it with Docker. So for that reason, what I usually do is create a MCP server and later on package it to be an image, deploy it to Docker Hub and use it. Let's show you how I did that. Okay, perfect. Here I add all of the steps which you need to follow to deploy your MCP server. Okay, let's just build the application. Done. After the building the application, we'll see that we have a dist folder. Okay, next step is to test do this is working. See, we have a result. Of course, ugly one. But the result is that it's added information about the prompts which I can use directly in the console. Okay, now we are ready to build the image. To be able to build the image, you should have a Docker file and also Docker ignore file if you want. I highly suggest you to have it, because then the image will be really small. Okay, let's build this image. Perfect. The image is built. Now, going back here, to be able to push images in your Docker Hub, what you should do is to log in first. I already did that, so for me it will be not needed, but for you, if you are not logged, you should do it. And also you will see that login succeed if you already succeed logging in Docker Hub. Next step, let's tag, for example, our Docker image. I'll type here .2. Okay, the tag is created, and just push it. But before to that, let's just copy here the push. Okay, pushing the images. Now my Docker MCP locally, it's put it in image, and this image is pushed to my private Docker Hub. If you go to Docker Hub here, see, I already have info MCP server. Perfect. And you can see that I have tag 2, which I added before seconds. Now, many of you probably will ask, okay, I managed to create the image, I push it to Docker Hub, and then what? How to use this image in directly MCP? The easy question, it's very, very good, because in the end, what is the purpose to use Docker if you can't use the image directly in the MCP? But here's the tricky way. What we have is that if I go back then to Tools and MCP and take a look, what I have here is that this is my local MCP server, which is with argument server.js. But if you look this one, I directly use image which I pushed before seconds. For example, let's change this to the specific tag. Okay. Done. Now, what this allow me is rather than to use the code in locally, I can use directly my generated image like a MCP server. So here I have two commands. One is for local and another is for Docker. As you can see, I already typed some questions and received some answers. Okay. For example, who is Kristiyan Velkov, and this give me the answer. Okay, let's copy this one. Okay, now this is server running locally. So if I put here, we will see that it's executing exactly the output of server.js. Okay, that is working. Okay, let's try it now with the Docker one. Okay, what I should do is change the name to Docker server Docker, and let's ask again who is Kristiyan. Now the information is run directly for the image, which is living in my Docker Hub, and I pull this image before few seconds. Perfect. See, the output is here. This is proof that if you Dockerize the whole MCP server and push it directly in Docker Hub, in the end, the result will be fully functional MCP server from Docker image. Beauty. Okay, so let's see what else we can do in our MCP. For example, let's ask what is Docker. Okay. Again, asking for permissions. And here is the answer. This answer is coming for our server. Of course, packaged server in Docker image. So if I search here, Docker, yeah, see what is Docker. Also, we can ask what is Docker MCP Toolkit. Okay. MCP. Perfect. And this, of course, will ask again permissions and will give me the whole result here from our MCP server. Beautiful. Okay, to be able to see the images, one way is here, Docker images, and search for your image, Kristiyan info MCP server. See, this is the tag which I created and pushed to my Docker Hub. Another way is to use Docker desktop. So in Docker desktop, going to images, and you see that I have this image. So info MCP server was latest, and I have also with tag Q. Perfect, absolutely amazing. Now, I want to show you something very beautiful also about Docker, and that is the way you can ask AI to improve your Docker files. Okay. Okay, let's close that for test purposes. Help me to my Docker file. And now Gordon AI will ask me, okay, perfect, I will help you, but could you please give me permissions to access your directory? So we'll be understanding the directory which I have a Docker file. Later on, we'll scan the whole application. We'll see that I have a Docker file, and will add me suggestions what I can improve. See, beautiful. Gordon is AI tool which I use a lot because it's trained to help people to work with Docker better. And you can scan your Docker files. You can type to give you suggestions what will be better in your specific application, and asking several questions related to Docker best practices and etc. So highly advise you to go and check it. So we did our training. Again, I will mention that this GitHub repository is public in my account, and if you go it here, you will see that I added the repository. You can go check it, research a little bit what it's doing and how you can work it. The beautiful part is that I'm not only added the server, but also explanation what exactly each file is doing. And that will be for our code demo. Now, let's just go and share with you where you can find me, where you can connect with me. For example, if you scan this QR code, you will directly be redirected to my LinkedIn. Again, MCP, Docker, all of the stuffs are really easy to understand. Also, if you are using already created MCP server like I did, it will be easy for you to understand the whole concepts behind MCP and Docker. I try in this demo to show you the basics, but this is not limited just to give you responses which is hard-coded. Think on MCP servers like something which is unlimited. You can do a lot of beautiful parts. For example, type something in cursor, going to some website, scrapping the information, provide you summarization, save the notes in Word or any file, do a code reviews before pushing the changes, a lot of beautiful things. So MCP world is unlimited, and my prediction is that we will grow a lot. To be able to stay on the edge of AI and new technologies, definitely you should check MCP. Thank you for your time. My name is Kristiyan Velkov, and it will be super nice to connect me and talk about AI, MCP, and Docker.